Hey, Dr. Shakib here from Irvine Spine and Wellness Center, your Irvine Chiropractor. I'm here with Coach John, and we're going to discuss the proper posture for runners to avoid all the many injuries, including hamstring pulls. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Coach John, we're talking about proper posture. From your perspective, what is the proper posture for runners to avoid all the knee, ankle, feet, pulled hamstring issues, in addition to a lot of tension between the shoulder blades as they're running?
So proper posture when it comes to running is not that different, in my opinion, from when you're just standing here or doing your day-to-day activities. Essentially, what I see a lot are the runners who they're tight, which I'm not gonna bash tightness because we need some tightness to sprint fast and hard, but they're tight in kind of the wrong places, and they're just showing the common imbalances that we see when we're walking around. So, for example, the anterior pelvic tilt, so with the hips and the butt shooting back, the duck butt, I think it's called duck butt. That's a no-no.
The butt's leaving the body.
The butt's leaving the body. We don't want that. The rolled through shoulders, the rolled in shoulders, or flared ribs. One of the two. Rolled in shoulders, I think, is more common in runners who are running for longer distances. What's more common in sprinters, I think, is the flared ribs. The ribs coming up with the butt. So you're not having that good cylinder that me and Dr. Shakib preach all the time.
So one of the things that should be a clue, if you have a tendency to go into pushing your chest out, you're trying to gain, I always say muscles contract and make the joints move, therefore the skeletal system moves. When you maneuver your skeletal system to give advantage to a muscle for what it lacks, you're going the wrong way. You're using the wrong pattern of movement. You're actually, in the case of runners, especially with basically marathon runners, what ends up happening is you actually jack yourself up. There's a pulled hamstring. There are so many other issues. So what you need to keep in mind is what is ideal posture no matter what. And we've talked about the barrel. I'm gonna make sure we put that barrel video at the end of this video so you guys can watch. It is on the YouTube channel under the playlist posture, but you gotta make sure that you are in the right place. You've got the barrel going so you're not slouching forward or hyperextending. Well, I'm going to let you finish, and then I want to add more stuff with how to actually make sure that the proper movement within your pelvis should be rocking back and forth, not maybe to this extent as you're standing or you're walking, but I'm over exaggerating the forward flexion and extension move. But you got to have a nice movement, segmental movement within your lumbar, your lower back vertebrae, and your pelvis, or you're going to have the whole region moving together, which causes a lot of issues, a lot of tightness in the psoas, and a lot of pulled hamstrings if you do it long enough. Would you agree?
No, yeah.
Is that what you see?
With less than ideal posture, we have what I like to call, what I've heard called power leakage. It's like when you're sprinting, you're trying to apply power, apply force into the ground to propel you forward. If we don't have proper posture, we're gonna have what's a leakage of that power chain out, so it's not being put where we want it to be put.
That makes sense. Yes. So biomechanically speaking, you're changing the angles of force in too many directions. For example, if I'm running this way and with my proper posture, I'm gonna hip hinge forward instead of bending forward. If I hip hinge forward and the distance between my 2 feet are enough and I'm properly balanced, and let's say I'm running, the angle from the force where I'm taking off, I'm pushing off, goes straight through here and then to my arm, and then I'm gonna swing and go backwards. Now, in a back posture, what ends up happening is if I'm going forward, it has to go up to my hip, and now it needs to go a little bit forward, and then it curves forward. So I'm breaking the force that I applied to take off just because the angles have changed. So proper posture is actually going to allow your force of contact to zip through and propel you forward versus breaking it.
Exactly.
That was awesome. So what else does the proper posture entail for runners?
For, are you long distance or are we talking short distance? Or
I feel like in long distance they get the bad postures kind of show up only because it's long distance. There's a failure in stamina perhaps.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
now we fail even more. I think it starts from the get-go, sprinters or not.
No, along those lines, I think that's why it's very important for marathon runners and long distance runners to get in the weight room. I don't know if it's still a misconception that long distance runners don't have to lift weights, but they very much should, in my opinion. Properly to keep this good posture so we can have a good repeated force production throughout the marathon or the 3K or whatever we're doing. Proper posture is key. And so to get that, that's what one thing we have to focus on when we're in the weight room, to enforce these good postures so we can hold this and have the strength to hold this throughout the entire race.
So that's where Coach John and I kind of a little bit vary in our style, because you deal with people who are athletic. I feel I deal with people who are injured. So for someone who is injured and has improper posture, I do not recommend them going to the gym, because you can't load a joint that is not in the proper position. You're going to damage the soft tissue and everything else. So that's when I encourage developmental kinesiology like DNS. It is on my website if you guys want to look it up. But that's when you put yourself in poses that require perfect strength and stretching of the musculature to hold it. So it's a very, well, I can't say it's a non-force or non-loaded force. It's just going against gravity becomes the weight.
No, yeah.
So you're dealing with athletes, so we want to make sure it's not so much the discrepancy between what Coach John says and what I'm saying. It's just a matter of who we're dealing with.
Exactly. I'm not saying if you have, say you have really rounded shoulders and you walk around like this, maybe I would agree with you in that we need to start getting into a better posture. But even people who have good posture, or runners I should say, if they have good posture while walking around, they could still find a failure point during their run. And that's what we need to train to keep this posture stronger for longer.
What are some of the failure points, even with people who have pretty decent posture when they're doing, what is that one area that, in your opinion, from your observation, you see that most failures happen, posturally speaking? Like from here to here, assuming from pelvis down to the feet, everything's good, tension here is good. What are some of the axial, meaning this way, failures that you see? You don't?
I'm not sure.
All right. I was trying to be discreet. Apparently I can't do that. So what I see a lot is that the failure in the posture happens with people who appear to be pretty decent from this view or this view. What I see in action is a lot of twisting. So it's a lot of doing that. Yeah. Maybe not to that extreme, but you get the point. So right here at the thoracolumbar junction, TL junction, where if I were to connect the shoulder to the opposite hip and go back, right where the X is, that's where the most amount of this instability happens. So you want to make sure you're not twisting, as you're not over exaggerating your arm swings and your torso movement. Keep that nice and straight, not rigid, straight. Huge difference. If you go rigid, you're gonna create other issues, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So anything else we wanna add?
I think along those lines of twisting too much while running, I think hamstring health is something that's, especially in sprinters, hamstring pulls, hamstring tears, that kind of thing is too common, is all too common. And I can see one of the reasons why we see these hamstring injuries, or I see injuries, is athletes overstriding. And so when you overstride and the point of contact from your foot is too far in front of your leg, we get a braking force. So your body is actually slowing you down a little bit. And when we get that braking force, that's a lot of strain on the hamstring. And if it's not corrected, it can lead to a hamstring pull, hamstring tear, things of that sort.
So it's, in other words, it's not being in sync. 100% agree with sprinters. I see that a lot, where they're hitting the ground hard, and of course their posture, they may be keeping the torso aligned with the legs, but they quickly, out of sync, they go forward. So the hamstring is still activated and is pulling into extension while the torso is propelling forward, so it pulls the hamstring. I see that a lot. In fact, not too long ago, I saw a patient with bilateral hamstring pull, which is crazy. It must be very painful. So you gotta pay attention to it. Watch your videos. Have someone videotape you as you're running and go frame by frame. Look at these videos and see, okay, is my posture proper or not? You may not understand what proper posture is. So if you're watching this, just shoot me an email. I'll take a look and see what's going on. If it doesn't matter what part of the world you're from, it makes zero difference. Send your videos, we'll take a look and see what's going on.
Definitely.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Well, thanks for watching. I hope that these videos have helped you with some of the issues you may have or you wish to not have. There's one more video we're going to be doing on pre and post running exercises, assuming posture is not an issue, or failed posture is not an issue. Thanks for watching. Take care.